25.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hello.
All right.
So, welcome to another episode of TSP. Sometimes we like to do live shows, but this one's recorded because my daughter's getting married on Saturday, so I'm gonna have a bunch of people at my house this weekend, so it just didn't work out. Combat Chaps here's doing the officiating, so I appreciate you, man. Don't be late Saturday.
I can't wait to do that wedding, man. I'm so excited, man.
Yeah, so we have a lot of things going on. This weekend's the wedding, so by the time this airs live, the wedding was yesterday. So hopefully it went well. We have a big fundraiser. So for you guys, if you don't know, so I started this podcast about 2 years ago, and it started gaining momentum, and people really loved it. And I was making a little bit of money, and I felt weird capitalizing off of our heroes' war stories, right? And so that was definitely not the intent, was to make money off of it. So I started a nonprofit, and the money that we make off of this podcast, my other podcast, and my book sales, From Sailor to Backyard Cook.
Gotta plug the book.
This drives the podcast, and also this is actually part of the podcast. There's a lot of quotes and stories in here from the podcast, from TSP. So it's very cool. I think it's a great concept. So you have recipes, and then you have quotes from an American hero, and it's very emotional. My wife said this is the saddest cookbook she ever read. And if those two things go together, you know, when people read this, they're like, "Holy cow, man! This is intense. This is an intense cookbook." But I used the funds to I started this nonprofit, and now I send veterans and first responders to sporting events. We have season tickets to the Detroit Lions. I no longer live in Detroit. I'm in Middle Tennessee, but I wanted to bless my hometown, so I started there. Now we're doing a big fundraiser on September 11th. Thank you to Single Tree Barbecue. And
Thank you, Charlie.
Hopefully we'll be get enough money to buy Titans tickets, Nashville Predators tickets, and we send these veterans and first responders. We open it up for first responders also, but it's completely free for them. We pay for their parking, we pay for their dinner, we pay for everything for them, and we try to match them up with a mentor so they have somebody to talk to for the night. So it's our little way of trying to combat the atrocity of veteran suicide that's plaguing our community.
Yep.
So if you're out there, you want to help out, purchase a cookbook. There's donation links down in the description. We appreciate any help we can get. So with that said, Chaps, how you doing, buddy?
I am well. I'm just
You're not that
I'm
well.
actually helping.
You're all aggravated.
I am. I was until I saw these two people, and I was like, yeah, I'm not so aggravated anymore. No, helping out a veteran. I got a call last week, 2 weeks ago, to help this veteran out move, and I didn't have a SMEAC, didn't have a Frago, so I had no idea what I was walking into. And me and two other people, we just moved an entire apartment building into a little shed, U-Haul, whatever, storage facility. And we're totally out of pocket. Like, this was supposed to be an easy move, and it wasn't. But you know what? It's okay. It got done because I'm a Marine, and when Marines have something to do, we get it done. Honor, courage, commitment, the esprit de corps, it's all in that move right now. I'm sorry. I'm plugging the Marine Corps really, really hard right now.
As you do.
But, no,
hey guys, he has been called a motard on the show before.
I was going to say. Before to get hard, man.
We can't say motard anymore. Motard that's hazing. That's like against the rules. You can't say motarded anymore. Now Donnie O'Malley at Bet TV, he can say that all day because it's Donnie O'Malley. But hey, I love the Corps. I love my Marines. I love being a Marine. If I could, I'd go back, but I'm way too heavy, and I'm way too broken. So I'm okay. I'm okay with helping veterans now. This is my job now. Now, like Fleek said, we have a couple events. September 11th is huge. September 18th to the 22nd is actually something big for me because I get to go up to Newburgh, New York, and I am the Tennessee representative of the National Purple Heart Hall of Honor. In Newburgh, New York is where the Purple Heart actually was created by Mr. George Washington back in 1782. He actually came out with that medal. It wasn't called the Purple Heart back then. It was called something else. But I get to go up there with 49 other Purple Heart recipients from the other states. We get to have gala luncheons and this. We get to go to the Vietnam Veterans Wall in New York City, the 9/11 Memorial. We're very excited. I can't wait. My wife and I are going to go. I was very honored to be the representative from Tennessee. So that's it. That's what we got going on in September, man.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
You also have some come up at the airport. When is that? Do you have dates for that? With the Wiz?
Yes, we are the gold sponsor for the October 21st STEAM Festival at the Murfreesboro Airport. One of our VFW comrades, Matthew Wiz Buckley, Lieutenant Commander Matthew Wiz Buckley, will be the center of attention with no fallen heroes, and he is going to be flying his Harrier jet to the festival, and he'll be giving people rides in his Harrier jet. Very cool.
Yeah, he was on our show maybe a year or so ago. Man, he's got some very fascinating stories. He was a F-18 fighter pilot for the Navy. Yeah, that dude's nuts.
He's got that one. You guys, if you can go back, Dan and Terry, if you can go back and see his episode, he's got this one story about breaking a $65 million plane. It's awesome. It's actually
a brand new
quite funny. A brand spanking new plane.
Right out of the crate.
And you got a slap on the wrist from his commander, which is hilarious.
Yeah, I think he was.
Yeah, usually you don't get a career after that, so he's pretty fortunate, I think.
Yeah,
that's right.
It was a crazy story. But hey, that said,
with that said,
should we start with Dan or should we start with Terry?
Yeah, who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll start with Dan.
Okay, Dan.
I was going to say, Terry joined the Marine Corps first, so I was going to try to give it over to him. Yeah. Well, I mean, the story, I guess, will best be told by bringing Terry into this. Obviously, I joined the Marine Corps and I went to boot camp the end of June 1994, and Paris Island, and did my thing there. Went till Lejeune, did the whole at the time MCT because I was an admin, which is a big part of this whole story. Ended up in Rochester at 8th Tanks. It was a tank unit, a reserve center out of Rochester. Moved out to LA and joined a different unit, a grunt unit in Los Alamitos, Gulf Company 223. And good unit. A lot of it was reservists, but a lot of active Marines that were got off active duty and were kind of working with us. So I never liked the job admin at all. The fact that I ever was in an admin office is the most ridiculous thing. I mean, it just was not a good fit. And my recruiter and my ended up becoming my brother-in-law. That's a whole other story. He thought it was because I said I wanted to get into business after my Marine Corps career, he thought being an admin would be a smart move, and it wasn't a fit at all. So when I got a chance to actually be part of a grunt unit and be in the reserves, they basically said, hey, can you carry the radio and all the batteries and hang with us? If you can, you're welcome to join us. So that to me was like a dream come true. So I thrived, and all the stuff they could do, I was easily prepared to do it. So I stayed with that unit for probably 5 or 6 months, and it went really well. And when I went back to New York City area, I told them, well, I want to stay with the grunt units. I mean, this is what I want to do. I know on my SRB, I'm in 01, but I'm not equipped for that kind of life. They said, well, son, that's not how the Marine Corps works. You see, we put you where we need you, and your MOS is an 01. You're going to be an 01. I said, no, I don't think that's going to work for me. Well, son, that's not how the Marine Corps. You don't tell us what to do. We tell you what to do. I said, well, I'm willing to burn the place down. Throw me in the brig, whatever you want to do. And they said, well, we're not gonna throw you in the brig. We're gonna break you down back to a private, and we're gonna process you out as a general under other than honorable condition. I said, well, do I still get to jam and be in my band? They're like, well, you do whatever you want. You're gonna be out of the Marine Corps, but you turn your back on the United States Marine Corps, son, it's over. And I said, well, whatever you got to do. And I was really rebellious, and I didn't go about it the right way, but I was a Marine that was thriving. I had good pros and cons at the time. I did some recruiting duty because I was deciding if I was going to go back to college and go to OCS and make a career out of the Marine Corps, or go get into the music business. So, two very different paths, right? So part of it was, once I was going into the music business, some things crossed over, and I was just all about that. So there was a lot of different things happening at that point. Needless to say, I got processed out, though, at the time, and years went by before it really hit me. To be exact, let's see, because I got processed out in 98, 99. So it took actually about 3 years in, I started regretting that decision. Started thinking about it. I said, what did I do? I turned my back on the Marine Corps. I turned my back on my country. I was a stubborn, rebellious little, I don't know if swearing. If this is a family-friendly show.
Swear all you want, man.
Okay, yeah, I was a rebellious little fuck, So
there you go.
So and it wasn't all right with me. So I called up the Marine Corps and I said, hey, I'd like to, prior service recruiter, I'd like to come back and get back in the Marine Corps. Oh, sure. Yeah. Why? Let's put you back in. Let's get your SRB. Oh, no. You're an RE4. What the hell did you do? Did you punch an officer? Did you smoke crack in the barracks? I'm like, no. They're like, we can't touch you. Reenlistment code is the worst. A 4 is the worst reenlistment code you can get. Bye-bye. Take care. Whatever you did, we can't touch you. Good luck. I'm like, well, I'm not going to give up. They said, well, you can do what you want, but we're not going to put you back in. You got no shot. No shot. So I said, all right, okay. I kept bugging them, and they stopped picking up calls. They were looking at me like I was a nuisance, but I wasn't going to give up. So finally, I'm like, if I wasn't a Marine, what would I be? So I was like, well, I guess the Army. So at this point, I was in New York, and I went to the Army Guard, and the prior service, or the recruiter for the Guard was a prior service Marine. So he goes, oh, come on in. Oh, son, he goes, I RE4, even the National Guard won't touch you. And I was like, holy crap. All right. So I kept bugging them too. So finally I moved back out to LA again in 2003 to go to music school. So I started bugging the California National Guard. So I went to the Orange National Guard in California and said, I want to join the grunt unit. I guess you guys call it an 11 Bravo. I want to join the California Guard. RE4, don't even worry about that. We'll put you in. I was like, all right, cool. I got a yes. So I did 1 year in the California Guard. It was a 1-year contract and got my honorable discharge. So I was proud. I walked right back into the Marine Corps recruiting station with my honorable discharge. And they basically said, we don't give a fuck. I was like, oh. So fast forward to January, New Year's Eve. December of 2004 into 2005. In my hometown, I'm like, you know what? It's New Year's Eve. I don't have much to do. What's going on here in this small town? I decided to go out to the golf course bar, the country club, whatever you call it at that time. I'm like, let me just see what's up. Yeah. So I walk in to this establishment, and I'm looking around the room, and I run into my guy, Terry, here. Now, Terry, at the time, I knew he went to the Naval Academy because when I was a 7th grader, I was bringing Terry's water bottles out to him during wrestling. Terry was a heavyweight in wrestling in our high school. So he was a valedictorian, and he was a senior. I was a 7th grader. So he was always someone we looked up to, knew he was a intelligent guy. He was going to the Naval Academy, became a Marine. So we run into each other, and it's like a reunion. I'm like, holy shit, man, how you been? And the first question he asked me, he goes, you still in the Marine Corps? And I said, no. And he goes, why aren't you in the fight? I said, how much time do you got, brother? And he goes, well, let's get a couple of beers. Yeah. He goes, let's get a couple of beers and talk about it. And so I said, all right. So I told him my story. And he just starts smiling. He goes, who are you calling? I said, the guys out of Seal Beach and in some of the prior service. He goes, those guys are part of my command. I do logistics for them. And Terry can tell you a little bit more. Terry, I don't know if you want to jump in this part of the story of where it kicked in here. I think together we tell the story best.
Well, this is just like one of those situations in life, I think, that, you're kind of put in a certain position of your life to help somebody else out, and I think we could all probably relate at some point, where you just happen to be at the right place at the right time, or you just happen to be, in a certain position, and you just happen to know the right people, that can help make a difference. So like Dan said, I became a Marine after graduating from the Naval Academy, and, I never wanted to be a logistics officer. I wanted to be, like a combat engineer or artillery or that kind of thing. But out of TBS, I was second from the bottom of the top third, and they do like this quality spread at TBS. So when I got up there, it was either adjutant or motor transportation. Which one do you want, Lieutenant? And there wasn't any negotiation at all, So somebody said, well, if you take motor transportation, you get 50 cals and you get Marines. Like, okay, I guess I'll go take motor transportation kind of thing. And so, fast forward a few years, motor transportation for officers went away. You became like a logistics officer. And so I did my first initial tour at 3rd Marine Division in Okinawa with Truck Company and Headquarters Battalion and 4th Marines. I went to graduate school at the Naval Postgraduate School and did that for a couple of years. And then I was doing my payback tour at Camp Pendleton at McTissa. And then I had an opportunity. I mean, I wanted to stay in Southern California. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? And so I didn't really want to go to Camp Lejeune, frankly. And so anyway, the only bill, geez, I don't know.
You know, you're awesome.
I know. I mean, I love the guys that want to go there, but, God bless them, So anyway, I'm there already. And so the only billet that was available for me at the time, and this is like at the end of 2002 or something like that, was like the recruiting district, the 12th Marine Corps recruiting district as a logistics officer. So that's where I went. And, so during the whole time there on recruiting, I was not it's an A bill. It's not a B bill, so I'm not trying to get recruiting points or that kind of thing, but I'm helping to support all the recruiters. So I got a chance to know all the prior service recruiters across 12 Western states, all that kind of stuff, and take care of their facilities. And at that time, the prior service recruiters came underneath Marine Corps Recruiting Command. So I had to do that whole transition thing and got to know these guys really well, so I knew all these guys. And in fact, I moved the whole leadership of the prior service recruiters. They used to be home base out of Kansas City. Now they're home base out of us, on the MCRIC side, into our district headquarters. So I knew all these guys. I knew the captain and everything and all the master guns and all that kind of stuff. So, I go back home, for Christmas time. And, Dan and I are from a small town. So you got to imagine that, we're a town of like 5,000 or something like that. And I'm actually from the next town over, Stafford, which has about 500. We're not even big enough to have a school. So I have to, we had to go to the big school of Leroy. And, as I tell a lot of people, like, well, what's Leroy? Like, well, it's the birthplace of Jell-O, so if you ever want to know where Jell-O is from, it's in Western New York. We do have a Jell-O museum there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. There's a Jell-O museum there. And, Bill Cosby has actually been to our hometown, at one point back when he was still, Anakin Skywalker before he turned into Darth Vader, kind of thing. So, anyway, so I go home, and it was just kind of a fluke that, my brother was home at the time. And so we just all decided to go out to the Leroy Country Club. We had no plans at all, that night. It was just kind of like looking at what's open. So we just happened to go to the Leroy Country Club that Dan was talking about, and that's where I ran into Dan. I hadn't seen him since I left, for the Naval Academy in 1989. So I don't think we had actually touched base, from that time. Fast forward almost 15 years. To see him in December of New Year's Eve night of 2004, going to 2005. So anyway, I mean, I knew Dan went in the Marine Corps. I always liked Dan. He was great. He was like 5 years younger than me, but he was always out there on the wrestling mat, football team, and that kind of thing. And and his sister was in my class too, so I knew the Clor family pretty well. So anyway, so I'm a major at the time, and I was like, maybe if Dan is serious, he told me a story, and I could totally relate to that. I mean, who joins the Marine Corps to be an admin person? And
Nobody.
I can personally,
Nobody does.
right? And I can personally relate to that because I had to be an adjutant at one point. When I was in Okinawa, 3rd Mar Div, I did my, truck company thing for a year as a 2nd lieutenant, and then I extended, right? And so I wanted to stay over there. And so I was a single lieutenant. And so they, oh, well, okay, well, since you're extending, how about being the adjutant for the battalion, for the next 6 months? So I ended up doing that for like 6 months at a headquarters battalion, which is one of the most challenging jobs I ever had, frankly, in the Marine Corps. I mean, kind of trying to keep track of like 1,100 folks across, 6 different camps and everything, and all the administrative, BS that you got to do. It was a lot,
that just sounds like a headache.
It totally is. So I can totally relate to Dan's situation. And it's like, hey, I told Dan, it's like, if you're really serious about this, I'll see what I can do, right? But I put it on Dan's shoulders, to take the initiative. I mean, I gave him my information, all that kind of stuff. Well, lo and behold, I got back to, San Diego, where I was at the 12th district. It's at MCRD San Diego, is where our headquarters is at. And Dan gives me a call, and so I ended up doing what I could, just kind of, greasing the skids for Dan, put him in touch with the right people. I wrote him a letter of recommendation and that kind of thing. And I think it's also a couple different circumstances involved with this where, we're in Iraq, obviously in Afghanistan. This is like 2004. Times are a little bit different, right? So the Marine Corps is looking for folks, and recruiting is tough, and recruiting is tough today, but recruiting was definitely tough then. So trying to find, the right people to fill billets, was important to do. So anyway, I think a combination of that, just trying to get, Dan down the right direction, talking to the right people, and some folks I think back in the DC area, that, took a chance on Dan. I think there's a sergeant major and a colonel, that had to sign off on some of the stuff on Dan's package. But, it all worked out in the end. Ultimately it was Dan's perseverance, that did all this. But what I'm most proud of, I got to say, like after I left 12th district, I went to 1MEF. I knew I was going to go to Iraq. And, I was in the 1MEF G4 section, and, so this is like, the fall of 2005. We were going to arrive into, Fallujah in January 2006. So I got an email. I mean, by then, Dan was in, so he was already with the MB battalion, up the road in Southern California. They had already deployed, over there. And on the SIPR side, which is the secret side, I actually got an email from Dan's come to commander. And I couldn't believe it that I received an email from him. He said, thank you so much for getting or helping Dan get back in the Marine Corps. He's been, awesome. He helped us get our unit deployed, back in shape, Dan's now in his like late 20s, kind of thing. And, he's like a private, running against these guys, but he was in better shape than all those guys, would smoke them, So, it was just really encouraging to hear that how Dan had taken the opportunity, that he was presented with, and to get back in the Marine Corps and actually do that, and make a great go of it. And Dan, I know you're in Ramadi in combat chaps. I think you're in Ramadi too, if I remember the history. Yeah. So that at that point, for the audience that might not know, Ramadi was the worst place on the face of the planet, without a doubt. And I, my job in Iraq when I finally got over there was just kind of keep track of convoys and that kind of thing, and all the material distribution and logistics associated with that. So I had a brief every morning, like all the IED attacks against convoys and all that kind of stuff. And I would hear all the SIGACs, as they say, or significant, events that happened the day before, the killings. I mean, Ramadi was definitely the worst of the worst. And, by virtue of all that stuff, I was on the counter ID working group and trying to figure out, at that time was being led by Brigadier General Neller, that eventually became our commandant, so he led that whole working group for a year. And that was probably one of the most fascinating.
Wait, you said Brigadier General Miller?
Neller. Yeah. He was our deputy CG.
Neller.
Yeah.
I thought you said Miller. Sorry, my bad.
Oh yeah. Neller, who eventually became commandant of the Marine Corps, a few years later. So anyway, I mean, that was, it was just kind of fascinating how things happen. So and when I ran into Dan at the country club, I just knew that, if Dan doesn't do this, he's going to be regretting this for the rest of his life, that he had an opportunity, screwed up, and, everybody recognizes that. Dan recognizes that. But, when given the opportunity to get back into it, he took it on full bore. He did everything he possibly could. to be the best Marine he could be, in that environment and do all the right things, and I think it speaks a lot to Dan's character, talking about second chances, in the Marine Corps. That doesn't happen very often. Dan's story is very, very like a unique story, because, like you're saying, RE4s are not typically, got back into the Marine Corps kind of thing. So, but anyway, I'm just really proud of Dan. And ever since then, Dan's been giving back. He's been giving back to the veteran community. And, I just want to support that. So I offered Dan's my time as much as I could to help out in any way I could. And so that's what I've been doing for the last several years now, is helping Dan out with American Warrior Festival and Strength in Numbers organization and getting that whole thing going to help out veterans and really looking at the next generation, the youth. I mean, me personally, I'm very concerned about, the state of the youth, in the United States. It's just a very sad statistic when you start reading about youth between like 17 and 24 that, 79% of them are not even eligible, to join the military because they're too obese, they're not passing their scores, they're on drugs, there's all kinds of reasons for that, or they just lack the sense of service, and the lack of patriotism, I think is a huge problem, especially for the Army.
I agree.
The Army has been, facing the struggle for several years now. The Marine Corps has been keeping their numbers up. I think the Marine Corps is a little bit unique in the way they kind of recruit and who they recruit and so forth. So far the Marine Corps has been meeting the numbers, but they also been doing it in a way that, their pools are a little bit, less deep, so to speak, so it's becoming more and more of a struggle. So anyway, we hope to, change that, as much as we can, from an American Warrior Festival perspective and help inspire youth into a sense of service and patriotism for the United States. So let me pause there. That was a lot.
Hoorah, sir. Hoorah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks, Terry. Appreciate the kind words, man.
Yeah. Hey, man, you've been doing it. So like I said, Dan's been on it. I mean, Dan does not live a glamorous lifestyle, so he is putting 110% into this organization and just trying to get, the message out there on the mission and promoting this organization that he's created himself, so it's pretty awesome what he's done.
So how long did Dan, when you went back in the Marine Corps, how long did you stay in that time?
Okay. Well, I got in, I think it was June of 2005. I get the call from that prior service recruiter in Seal Beach, and he goes, my brother, he goes, you got some friends in high places. That's what he said. And I said, well, I'm just excited to get started. He goes, all right, let's get your affairs in order. At that time, I had a full-time music academy that was my own business. So I was teaching kids and building bands and working in music. So I was doing that. And I'm going to close the door here real quick. I think there's some noise.
Yeah.
So it was June of 2005, and I was in 29 Palms immediately. And they said, get your affairs in order. You're going to be in Iraq in September. And I had no idea where we were going at that point. They were going to give a different area to each platoon. We drew Ramadi. So it happened pretty quickly. I remember walking in, and I was put in the best platoon that I could ever be put in. There was a platoon sergeant who's still one of my best friends today, who's also on our board for Strength in Numbers, Tim Fisher, sergeant at the time. And he just walks down. He's like, where the hell's your rank? And I'm like, that is my rank. He goes, how old are you? And I'm like, 29. He goes, you just joined? I'm like, it's a long story. He's like, he goes, put your fucking rank on. I'm like, that is my rank, man. He's like, those camis don't fit you too well. And I said, they thought I was a fat body. But I was in great shape, but they saw the baggy camis. I look like I kind of had some Gomer Pyle shit going on. My cover wasn't fitting right.
You look like a soup sandwich.
Yeah. Yeah, so then they bring me to Gunny, at the time, Staff Sergeant Slick. Now, this guy is one of the best
Nice.
leaders I ever met. He ended up becoming Master Sergeant Slick. Still a friend of mine. He calls me one of his favorite reclamation projects because I roll up to him and he goes, I got to hear your story. He goes, what the hell is going on here? How'd you get here? You just showed up. They just threw you into our platoon. And I told him the story and he's like, out fucking standing. And he goes, I said, I'm not here for any special treatment. I said, I was in the Marine Corps when a lot of these guys were in 3rd grade. I'm a private. I'll do whatever I can. I'm ready for fire watch. I don't expect anything special. I'm here to do my job. I said, I can train my fellow Marines in the gym. I said, I can also play guitar and do worship stuff. You want me to sing you some songs? He's like, you play guitar? He just started laughing. He goes, all right, so you're like a Swiss Army knife we could use here. And he thought the story was really cool. So he took a liking to me there. And I noticed they gave me fire watch, was I was always first, so I could hit the rack. They never gave me the 0-4 fire watch. He said,
Oh, man, you missed out, man. That's a fun time.
I know, right? He goes, hey, come play us a song. So me and some Marines would jam a tune for him. And then at the end, he's like, attention on deck. They promoted me. A month later, they promoted me as fast as they could. So I got all my rank back. I finished my tour in Iraq, and I went back and I said, they're like, well, you can get out. I said, no, I want to stay in longer. So then I went back to that Los Alamitos unit that I left 10 years before. And it was a trip because I was talking to these new guys about dudes that I served with, Marines that I served with. They're like, you knew Staff Sergeant Hewison? I said, yeah, we were Lance Corporals together. He's like, he was my platoon sergeant. So I just ended up staying in the reserves for another 2 years. And it was coming down the pipe that we were going to get deployed again. And it was going to be doing like stuff like patrols and house raids and stuff. And I got my business going again. And I said, if I go stay in, I might as well just stay in. Like I had to rebuild my business again. And it was really time to think about if it was time to move on with life or continue getting deployed. Because a lot of the reserve units, those guys were active, really. They were always deployed. I mean, I know reservists that were deployed for 3-4 years. They just kept jumping on new units. There was no such thing. They were just active, really. They were just constantly over in the sandbox. So to answer your question in a shorter way, I was put into the IRR in 2008. And in 2009, my contract officially ended. So I stayed in for another 4 years total, 2005 to 2009.
Oh, yeah. That's an awesome story, man.
You know what? It was amazing that all the things that you hated the first time, I was like, you want me to clean the head? Like I was just talking about motarded. I was motarded, man. I was every time I put the uniform back on. Yeah, I couldn't believe when I put the uniform back on, it was like, holy shit. And I found out, I talked to people like, this is 1 in 100. This is 1 in 1,000. Even Headquarters Marine Corps, the colonel, I believe at first wanted to deny my package. And then a sergeant major said, I think the sergeant major was like, sir, look at this. The kid started his own business. He went to the Army. He's been fighting. Like he had good pros and cons. Like, give him a shot. What else do you need to see? And I think that sergeant major made the difference. That's what the recruiters told me.
Well, that's awesome.
That's good shit, man. That is good shit.
Well, you know what I have Marines come up to me because they know the story, and they'll tell me what they did. And I'll say, is it a want or a need? Is it the first thing you think of every morning? Is it the biggest regret of your life? Does it burn within your soul to make it right? Nah, man, it'd just be nice. I'm like, well, stay doing what you're doing then, because it's going to take everything you got, and you're going to have to want it more than anything in the world to move those mountains. So if it doesn't burn you every day where you need to make it right, I mean, encourage everyone to make it right, but to do it the right way, you got to want it, because you're going to have to give up everything you're doing.
Right.
And you're going to have to face a lot of administrative battles, right? Like, I mean, I lucked out. The stars aligned for us with Terry. Without Terry, I didn't have the muscle up top to move the mountains. So it's funny now, inspiring to work with the Marine Corps to help get kids qualified to serve. And there is a part in there where Terry doesn't really feel it's too practical, but we're going to try it to help kids in my situation get back in. But it's going to take special people that want to make it right.
Right. Yeah. So what's the story with the American Warrior Festival? What's that all about?
Oh, man. I tell you what. It's basically a marriage of the two things that I fell in love with since I was, really, the day I saw Conan the Barbarian, I think this whole thing was starting to move, where the combination of the warrior mentality, and then hearing a band like Metallica come together. So you're like, on one hand, you've got the military world, the Marine Corps. The other world, you have the desire to entertain and play. And really, American Warrior Festival is the marriage of the entertainment world and the military world coming together. And how important is entertainment in the military world, from the movies to the music to, right? I mean, how interlinked are they? Right? I mean, like this, right?
Yeah.
It's movies and just entertainment to begin with. How many movies have helped recruiting, like inspired people to serve? And so it really is.
Hey, Dan, I have an example. Have you seen the video of Phantom Fury and Seether being played together? It's like freaking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, right? You hear the music with the action?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is a dream come true to be able to combine those worlds. And now you're finding veterans. We talk about this a lot in our veteran work. And gents, I know you could speak to this as well. We love the amazing organizations that are all doing different things, right? The ones that are feeding veterans, getting veterans homes, like really the big quality of life stuff that we need as humans, right? Food, shelter. Those are at the top of the chain. But entertainment, music, the arts are vital in their own way, because they heal, they inspire, they heal. What good is a brand new house if the veteran's within a prison of his own mind and body? They commit suicide in their brand new house, right? So we're here. I've had veterans say, I went to a concert and it saved my life. I heard a song and it saved my life. I just went to the Metallica show in LA, and it was like a higher universal thing. James Hetfield, the singer, comes on and says, big, massive screen, I want to talk about veteran suicide. And I'm like, I just lost my Marine Corps mentor and brother-in-law to veteran suicide in January. Terry went to high school with him, my recruiter. Yeah. So they played the song Fade to Black. And he said, you're never alone. We're always here. In the imagery, they were playing the song, and during the song, it was these crazy digital visuals of people in agony. It was kind of creepy, kind of painful, but powerful. And here they are playing this song about not wanting to go on, but you do go on. And I was just like, that is the power of what we want to get out to veterans, because after the song, James Hetfield speaks to 70,000 people. You are not alone. Don't give up. somebody cares.
Wow,
And
that's
it was
awesome.
like, holy shit, right?
Yeah.
So matters of the heart and the soul. You could be in the fanciest house. You can have all the nicest material things. Music and entertainment hits in a different way to the soul and the mind and the spirit.
I think Bob Marley. I think you just quoted Bob Marley, man. I swear to God.
Yeah, dude, my lady will be happy to hear that. She loves Bob Marley, and
Hey,
we always
dude,
talk about
hey,
that.
Bob's one of my favorite, man. Since I like the '80s, man. He was my go-to, and now I've opened up my palette to Seether and Pantera and Weapon X.
Yeah, bro.
Hey, that's a plug for you, man. That's a plug for you. Yeah,
Thanks, brother.
you got some great pipes, man. I cannot wait to have you down here. I want American Warrior Festival to come here to Nashville again.
Bro, do you guys know David Bray from Madison Rising?
No, you asked me that question last week. I don't think I do. Fleek, do you know?
He did the Marine Corps hymn
know
and the
of
Star
him.
Spangled Banner. They opened up at the Daytona 500.
Okay, yeah.
Just met some of those guys when we did a Jersey show, and I got to meet some of the other veterans that work in our field. You know, David Bray is very well known in the veteran world as a singer songwriter. The guy's amazing, really cool guy. Like I got to bond with him. So just other like-minded veterans like that are in the entertainment world and singing for their fellow vets. We're going to do some stuff together. You guys hear of Ray Cash, that lead instructor for the Navy SEALs? Ray Cash. He's like he showed up on stage and went up there and said some things and got a chance to meet him. So it really is cool meeting the other veterans, like everyone here that is out there making a difference and getting out the good positive vibes and helping our fellow veteran family. So it's just really is, like Terry will tell you, we made a lot of sacrifices. We live out of hotels. We are getting, working to get people to believe in us. We now have a nonprofit, so we can apply for grants. People love what we do, but getting the funding to do it, like a lot of veteran groups, right? We just need to keep doing the work. We believe in it. This is a lifetime commitment. If I'm, living on a beach at 88, but I went for everything I meant to do, I'll die a happy man. Material stuff doesn't mean anything to me. Making a difference means everything. So we're going to do it. We're going to keep moving it. And I believe in what we do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Man.
Yeah. It's an honor to be on this podcast, fellas, and we would love to bring this to Nashville in Tennessee. Again.
Hell yeah.
I'll go. I'll be there if we do it in Nashville. It's just down the road from me. I'm in Central Virginia, so Nashville's not that far away.
Whereabouts in Central
Where in Virginia are you, Terry?
Charlottesville area. Yeah.
I just spent a weekend there with my Navy guys. We get together once a year, and we're somewhere just on the other side of the Blue Ridge Mountains. I don't remember what town it was in, but we were just there.
Yeah. That's where we live. So right by the Blue Ridge.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And let me know next time you want to get around with your Navy buddies and everything. I'd love to meet you in person.
Hell yeah. See, if this podcast was a month ago, then we could have hooked up over there.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great area around here. Lots of wineries, breweries, and that kind of thing. And veterans as well. So it's definitely a very great place to come hang out.
There was a cool ass vineyard that we went to. There was a little building there with the guy that owns it. He's he works for the Smithsonian too. So he had all this World War II memorabilia in there. And he had a German helmet. And I was like, wow, that helmet's pretty badass, man. It's even got a bullet hole in it. And the lady pulls it off the shelf. Not only did it have a bullet hole in it, there was still his blood inside the helmet. I was like,
gosh.
wow. I'm like, how are you getting this stuff, man? They're like, oh, he works for the Smithsonian. I'm like, what is he taking out the back door, man? Like, he's got all kinds of shit.
That's pretty awesome.
It was so
Terry,
cool.
you gotta do me a favor when you go in Virginia. You have to do me this huge favor because I haven't been yet, but I hear it's supposed to be pretty nice.
What's that?
The favor is, well, you know where Richmond is, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, southeast of Richmond is this little island. It's called Fars Island, and it was founded by one of my 12th great grandfather. Because I am a son and daughter of the founding fathers of Virginia.
No kidding.
Yeah, I'm not official because I haven't paid the $600, but my uncle is, and I can get in there anytime I want. It's just the Fars were in Virginia back in 1609 and 1637, and Virginia, the Virginia Company. While I was over in England, my other ancestor was a quartermaster for the Virginia Company that helped with making the colony in Virginia, which I think is really cool. Like, you have a very cool state. I love it. It's like one of the states my wife and I might move to. South Carolina.
But it was beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I haven't been down there, so I'm just kind of looking it up right now.
Terry,
like,
what town do you live in?
Crozet, Virginia, just west of Charlottesville.
Is it anywhere near Remington?
Doesn't ring a bell.
No, that's where I was at. Was in
64 goes between, that goes east-west between like Stanton, like where it hits 81 and takes all the way down to Virginia Beach.
Stanton, is that where JMU is?
Oh, that's Harrisonburg, just up the road a little
Harrisonburg.
bit. Yeah.
Man, yeah. I always get those towns confused.
No, we used to, before we moved here to Crozet, we were living up in Newmarket, Virginia. So if you're familiar with Civil War history, there's a Battle of Newmarket there. And the Virginia State Civil War Museum is located in Newmarket. So we were living at, during COVID, we decided to go to our, Shenandoah cabin kind of thing. And we lived there for like a year and a half during COVID before we moved down to Crozet. So I was doing a lot of this stuff and, the tree house that I built for my kids and, other things. So we're like remote, for a while. But anyway, it's all worked out and everything. And Virginia's a great state, especially on the western side. Newmarket has a lot of veterans and, a lot of history there and everything. And the whole Shenandoah Valley is very, very interesting from a historical perspective.
Yeah.
So you have a cabin in Shenandoah?
Yeah. So we got that 5 years ago. And so we're living in Northern Virginia at the time. And so anyway, it's like one of those, hey, let's go get a weekend cabin or something like that, so we go out on the weekends, and that became our residence, for a long time. So yeah, it worked out pretty well.
But don't let Chaps borrow it. He'll trash it.
Hey, I'm just about to say this. I have a timeshare in Shenandoah in the trees. I haven't been there yet. It's Blue Green Vacations. And my wife and I are definitely going to be using it sometime very soon.
That might be the one in Gordonsville. That's
Gordonsville, it is. It's the one.
I've actually been. Yeah, I've stayed there before, and because we're part of that as well. And so that's like 45 minutes from us. Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Dude. I gotta say this right now. We just became Premier Gold like yesterday.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, congratulations. Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm very impressed with all the properties. I've been to Savannah. I've been to. We're going to Dennisport, Massachusetts for our for Valentine's Day. I got the presidential suite for 3,000 points. It's freaking awesome. I can't wait. Nice. I'm so excited.
Very cool. Very cool.
Dude,
Well,
Terry,
if you want to, if you want to stay at our cabin, we're on, we Airbnb it now. So it's kind of neat to see families come in and
Well, he
because
just
I
did
did a
that.
lot of stuff for kids there. Our kids were just like little,
hey,
when we were
sign
staying
me
there.
up, man. Sign me up.
Don't let him I'm telling you, don't let him use it. He just trashed one.
Hey, that was that. No, not me. I cleaned that place up. Okay, that was the 13 Marines that I served
Terry,
with. They
Terry, I don't know if
destroyed
you
that property.
Hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but Marines are animals.
Oh yes, I did that.
Yeah, like Terry, Dan, my guys destroyed this place. Like in the 7 years they had this Airbnb, they had never seen it after 13 Marines destroyed it. I had to stay behind for 2.5 hours to clean to make it good for the next person coming in at 2:00. The next people that were renting it, they had no idea that 13 Marines had just been there. So the Marine Corps taught me how to clean and taught me how to clean well.
Oh yeah,
That's for sure.
definitely.
Did you break out your brasso?
I did. I
Field day,
brass
field
up
day,
in my career, man. It's crazy.
You field day.
And I
You
used
make
the-
field day, huh?
Hey Dan, what was that stuff that we had to mix, like to clean the floors? The stuff you put on your face.
Oh, the was it clear?
Yeah, it was a clear blue. There was a clear stuff that it's like the aftershave stuff. You put it you put this and this and this, and you scuzz the deck with it. Damn it!
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called.
I
You
can't
talking like
remember either.
Aqua Velva or something?
Yes, Aqua Velva. Thank you, sir. Aqua Velva.
I think my dad used to use that,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, hey, I don't know if you know this, but the drill instructors at Paris Island, they have that in the gear locker, and you got to put it, and you have to scuzz the deck with that stuff, man. That stuff will take off anything.
my God. Yeah.
Oh man.
Hey, Terry.
Scuzz, harder, faster, sir. Scuzz, harder, faster, sir.
Are you done now?
Harder, faster.
I have some questions
Yeah,
about
I'm done.
Annapolis.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
What was your process to get into Annapolis? Because it's obviously extremely hard to get in.
Yeah,
hard.
and it's even harder today. I talked to my buddies about this quite a bit, and we don't even know if we would have gotten in, today. It's just gotten a lot more competitive, academically and everything else, that it takes. I've known some very outstanding, like children of some of my friends that couldn't get in. They had 1,500 SATs. They're like all Americans and they still didn't get in. It's like, what does it take? So coming from a small town, I especially appreciate, looking back even more today that had the opportunity to do that. When I was in high school, I just wanted to get out, frankly. I mean, I don't want to stay in my small town, I want to go see the world. Right. And that seemed to be like the best opportunity for me to do that. I wanted to serve my country, and it just kind of fit. There was one guy ahead of us who was like an 85 grad or something like that, Burpin Grazio. And he went to Annapolis, and that was kind of like my first look, at the service academy. But I had always had an interest, I look back at it now as like, I kind of cringe, but at first I was like wanting to go into the Air Force Academy and, because I thought that was cool with jets and that kind of thing. And thank God I never went in the Air Force, but nothing against the Air Force. It just would have been the right fit for me. So, but Bert ended up going to Annapolis, and I talked to him, and he played football there and everything. He was a team captain, and he was, kind of a, well-known guy around. And, I did pretty well in high school, and I worked really hard. And the process was long. You have to get a nomination from, either a senator or a representative and that kind of thing. And, the medical process and all that kind of stuff and all the academic stuff to get in there. But I was very excited, to get the opportunity. I think, the toughest thing was, was the interview, for the appointment. You have to get an appointment, right? And I went to a place in Rochester, and there's like 10 people, sitting outside the room, and these are all the people trying to get that same appointment. and you're just kind of sitting there with them. And then all of a sudden they call you in one by one, and there's like 10 people sitting around the table, and they kind of ask you a bunch of questions and why do you want to join and that kind of thing. So it was kind of intimidating, for a young kid. But anyway, it worked out. I ended up getting that nomination, and also went to Boys State and, did a bunch of other things. But, what I quickly realized, getting to the academy is that, small town, you kind of big fish in a small pond. You go there and everybody's an All-American. Everybody's, super smart, and everybody's got like, really high SAT scores. And I was just an average guy, so I tried my best when I was there. I played rugby. That was probably one of the best decisions I ever made, was to go out for the rugby club. And Navy, a little shout out to Navy Rugby. They just went varsity in the last year, and they won the Division I championships for the first time ever. So that was really cool to see all that and see a lot of my friends, we still track all this stuff. In fact, if you watch Navy football play Notre Dame, that was pretty abysmal. But what you probably didn't know is that Navy Rugby played them on – Navy Rugby played them on Friday, played Notre Dame on Friday at Trinity College and beat them 78-0. So it was awesome. So anyway, I like to think that, I was part of that initial group that kind of got the program, back to the level that it is today. I mean, it's a national powerhouse now. They got a great recruiting class coming in, and if there's anything like a fraternity at the Naval Academy, it was definitely like the rugby club. It was not a varsity sport when I was there; it was just a club sport. And those brothers of mine, that we and the teammates, I kept running into them. That whole rugby connection kept helping me out, throughout my career. Like if you had that common bond, it's kind of like the Marine Corps. You had the Marine Corps fraternity, but then the rugby thing was kind of like another kind of aspect, to that.
It's
that
a cult. It's a cult, sir.
Yeah,
it's a cult.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And like some of the guys that I kind of rode the ranks with, that were still around, 20 years later, they're the ones helping me out. It's like, oh, I know that guy, I mean, I can figure that out, So anyway, it was a great experience there. The Naval Academy is, just an outstanding institution, and I just really fortunate to be able to recall that, where I went to get my bachelor's degree and everything. So, I mean, the closest friends that I have today are either from the Naval Academy and some of the folks that either played rugby with or from my company, or they're from the Marine Corps, and there really isn't a whole lot in between, so those kinds of experiences really, bring out the best in people, and you really learn, pretty quickly, who you want to hang out with and, maybe who you don't want to hang out with. So the ones that, you continue on with, your lifelong friends, and time never seems to, be there, because, you can meet them 30 years later and it's like time has not passed, and it's just kind of a cool experience. And I really want to show that to my kids, to make sure that they understand that, hey, there are certain things that you can do in life, to make those kinds of bonds, really special, for the rest of your life, and not just do something average. I don't think any Marine ever strive to be doing something average. We always want to try to be the best of whatever it is, and try to be that person that you want to look up to. And so I certainly see it with you guys, here on the podcast today.
What's the process of picking either Navy or Marine Corps?
Well, that's another crazy thing. I'm like, when I went to the Naval Academy, I had no aspirations of being a Marine. I mean, nothing against, anything, but, when I thought of Marines in high school, I mean, they're usually like these loud, obnoxious assholes,
They are.
We are.
So I used to think to myself, like, why would I want to be a Marine? Like I just go out and kill people, or something. And, it's like, that's the thing. Like you get the stereotype, but you don't really realize until, later that there's lots of other things you can do in the Marine Corps besides, killing people and everything. And what struck me the most about it was being at the academy. And I tell you that the Marines were the standouts. They looked the sharpest. They, you saw like some of the Navy professors and everything. They were still active duty, and they're like fat, So,
Yeah.
I was like, what do I want to be? Like, I want to be a Marine. So, it took me a little bit, but once I got on that path, is like, I felt the best. And this is one thing that the Naval Academy does, is that they take you out and they make you experience, the different kinds of services and that kind of thing. So you get a chance to play down in Quantico and be on a surface warfare ship and all that kind of stuff, and it's definitely helpful, to be able to do that. So anyway, I quickly realized that that's what I wanted to do. And so I went to OCS. At that time for us, it was just voluntary, but that's what I wanted to do. And so anyway, graduated, went to TBS and had a good time there overall. But, I definitely had no aspirations of being a mortar transportation officer. It's like, I just busted my ass for 4 years at the academy, and here I am, a truck driver. That's like kind of like my mentality, but that turned out to be really good. So I always look back at life and, everything happens for a reason, and, right. I didn't want to maybe go to 12th district, but, once I was there, I helped out Dan. I helped out some other folks, and I learned a lot, in preparation before I went to Iraq. So I don't regret any decision, that's ever happened to me in my lifetime. I mean, I firmly believe everything happens for a reason, and, your path is kind of chosen for you. And you have obviously some decisions along the way, but, God kind of has a path for you. And, you try to do the best that you can, where you're planted, and just try to be the best you can at that particular time in your life. And I think that's a good lesson learned for everybody out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Man.
So,
hey Terry, I got a question. Who is your graduate speaker at TBS? Do you remember?
Well, I'll tell you this. I did not attend the graduation at TBS because we had to leave early to go to motor transportation, officers basic course, kind of thing. So I missed that. But I will say who my graduation speaker at the Naval Academy was, and that was Senator John McCain at the time. And that was a guy.
Very nice.
That was a guy that I didn't know a whole lot about. I had no idea that his father and grandfather had both graduated at the bottom of their classes at the Naval Academy. Both became 4-star admirals, and his whole time in Vietnam as a POW and everything. That was pretty cool. I mean, that was cool to meet him and be able to shake his hand, up on the stage. That was pretty neat.
Did you make it up the greased pole?
I was on the bottom. I'm kind of a bigger guy, so I'm like 6'4". So I wasn't the one climbing. Herndon is the name of the grease pole to end plebe year. And basically you have to take the plebe cover off and put a combination cover on the top of it. So I was definitely on the bottom, with all my other classmates, hot, humid, that kind of thing. But we were able to do it in about 93 minutes. That was my graduating class number in 1993. So it was about 93 minutes that we accomplished that.
So you had to do that, and then you went to OCS, and then you had to do the Quigley on top of that.
Yeah, the OCS part was between my junior and summer. Between my junior and senior years, that summer. So we did all that stuff. Yep. The Quigley.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff. Hey, that sounds tougher than Paris Island. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
When I got to the basic school too in August, it was like, the hottest time of the year. If you know Virginia, I mean, it's a lot like Tennessee, hot, humid, that kind of thing. And then the winters can be really, shitty as well. And the coldest, Dan and I grew up around Buffalo, right? So we know cold weather. We know winters. But, they're out in the woods for like a week. That's the coldest I've ever been. We had, winter storms there, and, you're out there in your offensive week and your defensive week. And, sometimes it's like 35 degrees and raining like the whole 3 days. So, it was definitely the coolest experience I've ever had, was at the basic school. But it's good training though. And, I'll never forget some SPC walking by. It's like, hey, Lieutenant,
What the heck?
someday you're going to laugh about this, kind of thing. And it's true. It is true. I mean, you get through it, you learn from it, you learn some lessons, perseverance and so forth. And, it's good training for everybody.
Do you still make it out to the Army Navy game?
I have not been there personally in a long time, but I have been going to Annapolis to watch rugby games, and that's always been fun. I bring my kids now,
cool.
and that's pretty cool. So I'll be going to my 30th reunion actually in October this year. So that's kind of a big milestone, I guess. I used to look at some of those folks and to say, man, those guys are old. Now I'm one of those guys. So.
Yep, exactly.
What year did you graduate, Terry?
1993. Yeah.
Okay. Damn. 93.
All right. Well, we've been on for a little over an hour. You got anything else, chaps?
No, I just Dan, Terry, do you have any saved rounds for our listeners and the 27 countries that are actually going to be hearing this in about a week?
Amazing. You know what? Just check out our mission if you would. On the veteran side, it's AmericanWarriorFestival.com. Celebration of our troops, veterans, and American way of life. And check out our nonprofit at strengthinnumbersorg.org. And check out our work with veterans, military, and the youth. We're helping kids get out of gangs and follow a better path, and we're helping kids get qualified for service to join the military, and veterans are at the forefront of that in a mentorship coaching role. So please say hi to us. If you're a veteran, you can sign up to get on our list for events. You might find yourself at a major concert in a stadium in a luxury suite. We have baseball games, NFL games. Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff going on in the entertainment and military training world. So if either one of those or both of those things appeal to you, please check us out.
Oh yeah, let's come to Middle Tennessee and let's do an event together.
Oh, absolutely. We did a American Warrior Festival, like a smaller version, at the Nashville American Legion. So we have been in the area, and then COVID hit, and when we wanted to come back in 2020, and then obviously not much was going on there. So we're way overdue. There's a few things Andrew shared yesterday. We're working with the Nashville Armory. So if you want to go learn to shoot with a Green Beret and a very well-respected guy in the firearms training industry, he's willing to do it on the house. You make a donation to American Warrior. We can set that up, and you can go down to the Nashville Armory and get a firing range or get a firearms lesson. So it's a good way to kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. So yeah.
Oh, Dan, we'll be there on September 11th or the 12th.
Awesome. Yeah, and we're working on finalizing our details to get down to the Nashville area. So Terry, you'll be hearing about that. Sarah and I are looking to go down and hang with Andrew and his family. So
nice. You can stop at our place along the way.
We would love to. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna see if we're gonna drive instead of fly. We're figuring that out too. So
yeah, cool.
We'd love to see California. You guys. We're in California for another couple days. We leave on Wednesday. We were in Manhattan Beach the last couple days. So it was really cool to hang out there and do work from the beach. So
where's your main base at? Where do you set up shop?
Most of the time in Western New York, in the Rochester, Buffalo area. Yeah.
You're still up there.
Yeah, that's where we spend most of our time. But we're really hitting the road as hard as possible. We want to take the mission wherever it can grab. We can work remotely as well. We can build what we're doing remotely. Getting people, a lot of people in the local areas are willing to help us out. If we get some kind of traction, we get people interested, we can get it moving pretty much anywhere.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. Hey, Terry, do you have anything before we sign off?
Yeah. Hey, I just want to say thank you for allowing me and Dan to be guests on your show. This is a great mission you guys are performing as well. And just want to thank you for having us on and telling our story. Love to link up with you at some point, in real life and not just keep it
real.
virtual. So anyway,
Yes,
stay in
sir.
touch.
Definitely.
Yeah, are you guys on social media?
Dan is.
Yes.
Terry, I don't know. I'm not your friend, but I
Just
will be.
just LinkedIn. That's all I do is LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
I'm not a Facebook or Instagram kind of guy, so I'll let my wife do
Good
that.
to go.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to get a hold of Terry in other ways, we can help be his filtering process. So we're all over the place. You could find us if you go to our website. You can find our social media icons, but you could find put in American Warrior Festival on Instagram, on Facebook. You could find me at Dan Clor on Instagram and Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, if you need to find us, you type us in. We should come up near the top. And I want to thank you guys as well. Add on to what Terry was saying. Thank you so much for having us on and sharing our story with your audience. Anyone who wants to make something right in life and come back strong and right a wrong, do it. You feel a lot better when you do it. So
Right on. That's awesome, man.
God bless you guys.
Yes.
All right, you too.
Yes, as well. Thank you.
All right.
Hang on for a second while we shut it down. I just want to thank all of our listeners out there. Everybody's tuning in. We really appreciate your support, and we'll see you guys next weekend.
Sounds good.